Hello everyone. So in today's lecture, I will talk about the impulse and momentum. Okay, so before going into today's lecture, I would like to summarize the previous lecture, which was on work and energy. And as you can see in this figure here, that when you apply a force on a particle, and the particle is moving from point A to point A dash, and the angle between the force and displacement, which is dr, is alpha here. So the work done by force F during displacement dr is given as here. So du equal F dot dr, which is the work done by a force, is equal to the dot product of force and displacement, which can be written in this form, that F ds cos alpha. And then we can see from this figure that F cos alpha is Ft, which is the tangential force or force in the direction of the displacement, and then ds is the magnitude of the of this displacement here. In addition to this, we can write the total force, which is the integral of this ft ds from s1 to s2 here. Okay, so then based on this equation, we derive three different equations for three different type of forces. So the first force uh, was P force. So when you want to calculate the work associated with a constant external force P, which is U12. So the work done from 1 to 2 when the body is moving from position 1 to position 2. So you will calculate it equal to P cos alpha L. So P cos alpha is just the tangential force, or the force in the direction of the displacement, and you will then multiply this with the displacement of the body when it moved from this position to this position here, which is L. So P cos alpha L is the work done by this force P here. And now we then also calculate the work associated with a spring force, so which was again U12. And when you stretch the spring, as shown in this case here, the final displacement is x2. The initial displacement was x1. um, and in this case, then we can calculate the work done by the spring force, equal to minus half k x2 square minus x1 square. And we have a negative sign here, which shows that the work done by the spring force is negative here. And again, we derive the work associated with the weight, and here we are assuming a constant g here. And the work done from 1 to 2 is equal to minus mg y2 minus y1. And because again here we are doing work against the gravitational force, which is weight, so therefore it's negative here. And finally, we derive this very important equation, which is what we call is the work energy equation. So the work energy equation is U12 equal to half mv2 square minus half mv1 square, which is the final kinetic energy minus the initial kinetic energy of the body, and which is equal to delta T, which is the change in kinetic energy. And then we can write this equation in this form here, that the initial kinetic energy of a body plus the work done of all external forces is equal to the final kinetic energy of the body. But then we try to simplify this equation, and we introduce a new term here, which is U12 dash. So U12 dash is the work of all external forces other than gravitational forces and spring forces. So then we write this equation in this form here. In this case, T1 is the initial kinetic energy of the body plus the potential energy at location 1, and plus U12 dash. So this is the work done of all external forces other than gravitational forces and spring forces, because we are introducing here this term, which is V1, which uh, is the potential energy, including elastic potential energy and gravitational potential energy. And then on the right hand side, we have the final kinetic energy and final potential energy. And again, this the final potential energy can be potential energy due to gravity, which is gravitational potential energy, or it can be due to the spring forces, which is our elastic potential energy here. Okay, so now we can come to our today lecture. So in today lecture, we will be mainly discussing about the Newton's second law of motion in terms of linear momentum. So here we will introduce this new term, which is what we call is the linear momentum, and then we will define the Newton's second law in terms of linear momentum. We will also then discuss about linear momentum, and then we will discuss linear impulse momentum principle. And then we will discuss about impulse momentum diagram, which is a very important diagram here, and you will be using this diagram in a variety of numerical examples. And we will also then discuss some application of the linear impulse momentum principle, that where can exactly you apply this principle to real world engineering problems. Okay, so to start with today's topic, so in the previous lecture, we focus attention on the equation of work and energy, and which are obtained by integrating the equation of motion, which is F is equal to ma, the Newton's second law, with respect to the displacement of the particle. So in the previous lecture, what we did, that we took this equation, which is the work done by a particle when it moved from position 1 to position 2. So it is this ft ds. So you are integrating this with respect to the displacement, and then we replace this ft by this mat, which is due to the Newton's second law. And then you can replace this at ds by vdv. So if you just replace this thing here, so you just replace this at ds by vdv. So if you replace this and if you do this integration here, so you will get this equation here, which is the final kinetic energy minus the initial kinetic energy. But in today lecture, okay, so in the previous lecture, then we found that the velocity change could be expressed directly in terms of the work done or in terms of the overall change in energy. So we derived this equation here, and the equation was that T1 plus V1 plus U12 dash equal T2 plus V2. But in today's lecture, we will do it a bit differently. So we will integrate the equation of motion with respect to time. So here you integrate this with respect to displacement or velocity, but now we will integrate this with respect to time. And this approach lead to the equation of impulse and momentum. So you will see this in a minute. And now these equations greatly facilitate the solution of many problems in which the applied forces acting during extremely short period of time. So for example, in impact problem or over a specified interval of time. So you will see this in a minute, how we will derive these equations and how this will be applied to some engineering problems. Okay, so first let's introduce a linear momentum. So if you consider the Newton's second law, which is the acceleration of the particle is proportional to the resultant force acting on it and is in the direction of this force. So if you apply force on a body here, the force is F, the mass of the body is m, and the acceleration in the body is a here. So then we can write the Newton's second law is summation of all the forces equal to ma, and we discussed this in quite detail in the previous lectures. Okay, so now in this case, as you know that the acceleration is just equal to acceleration is equal to and we know that the acceleration is a vector here, and it is equal to dv by dt. And again, the velocity is vector, acceleration is vector, so we can write the acceleration in this form, which is the rate of change of velocity here. So now we can write this equation of Newton's second law, which is ma, we can write this equation, that summation of all the forces equal to m, and then we can replace a with the dv by dt. You can write this equation in this form here, and if you assume that the mass is constant, if we assume that mass is constant, so then we can change this equation to this form here, that summation of all the forces. We can move this m inside the differentiation here. So we will write that dmv by dt, and we can then introduce here a term which is mv dot mv will be equal to, we will call this linear momentum. So if you multiply velocity with uh, the mass, so this is what we call is a linear momentum. So in this case, and we will call this is g, and because velocity is vector and m is scalar, so if you multiply m with v, so you will get a linear momentum, which is again a vector, and the direction of g will be in the direction of the velocity. So again, you can write this equation in this form, because this mv is g, so you can write dg by dt here. So this is the new way to write the equation of motion here. The Newton's second law, you can write this in this form here. And now you can define this, that the resultant net force, which is this force here. So if you take the resultant of all the forces, which is proportional to the object uh, rate of change in linear momentum. So as you can see here, it is the rate of change in linear momentum, which is g here. So this is the new way that you can write the Newton's second law. And it also provide you with this new term, which is g, and g is what we call is the linear momentum, and it is just the multiplication of mass times velocity. And because the velocity is vector, m is scalar, so if you multiply scalar with the vector, you will get a vector. So this means that g is a vector, and the direction of g is always in the direction of the velocity, because m will not change the uh, direction of the velocity. So g is also a vector, and the direction of g is in the direction of the velocity here. Okay, so as you can see in this case, this is the summation of all the forces equal to ma, and a here is the dv by dt, which is the rate of change of velocity here, which is acceleration. So if you multiply or move this dt to the left hand side here, so it will become a summation of all the forces dt equal mdv. And now we will integrate this equation here. So if you integrate this equation here, which will be integration of summation of forces equal to m dv here, and because v is a vector here. Okay, so on the left hand side, you are integrating it with respect to time. So the limit of the integration will be the limits of time here, so which will be t1 to t2. And on the right hand side, you will have the limits of velocity here, because you are integrating with respect to velocity. So this will be v1 into v2 here. So if you just do the integration here, so it will be t1 to t2 and f dt. And if you just move the m out of the integration, because we are assuming that m is constant, so the equation will become this equation here, and if you say that you are assume constant m here, so we are assuming that m is constant, so we are writing this in this form here. Now it is just a simple integration of 1 here, because there is just 1 here. So you can write this, it will be v, and then the limits of v1 to v2 here, so which will become m v1 minus m v2. Okay, and now we already know that g, which was our linear momentum, was equal to mv. So the mass, when you multiply with the velocity, you get the linear momentum. So in this case, we know that mv1, mv2 minus, and this will be become mv1. So this mv2 will become a g2, which is the final linear momentum, and minus mv1, which will become g1, and which is the initial linear momentum in this case. So if you write this equation, so that will become t1 to t2, and f dt equal to g2 minus g1. So now here we are, if you look at the left hand side, you are integrating force with respect to time from t1 to t2. So this is what we call is the linear impulse. And on the right hand side, because this is the final linear momentum minus initial linear momentum, so this is just a change in linear momentum here. And again, if you see here, we are using the term linear because here we are using the linear velocity. There is also another quantity that we will discuss later on, which is what we call is the angular momentum, which you will see later on. So just to give you an idea that because we are using here the term linear momentum, so this is because that we are multiplying mass with the linear velocity, which is v. And if you multiply something with the angular velocity, so you will get angular momentum, which we will discuss later on. Okay, so in this case, we have this equation here now. And again, in this case, as you can see, the units of the impulse will be force into t. So this will become just Newton second. And as you can see on the right hand side, it's the is the momentum here. So the units of the momentum, which is mv, so it will become kilogram meter per second. So the units of impulse can either be Newton second or kilogram meter per second, or the units of this g is kilogram meter per second or Newton second here. So now we can also write this this equation in a little bit different form. So we can say that or which will become g1, and then plus t1 to t2 summation of all the forces into dt and equal to g2. This means that if you take a body with some initial momentum or initial linear momentum, and you apply forces on it, so that should be equal to the final linear momentum of the body. So this means that the forces will change the momentum of the body, and this equation is very important equation here, and this is what we call is the linear impulse momentum. So this equation that you see here is the linear impulse momentum principle, and it's telling you that if you take g1 which is the initial momentum of the body, and you just apply this impulse to it. So this impulse is changing the momentum of the body, and it will be moved from g1 to g2. So this is the equation of linear momentum here. Okay, so now we can this was the equation of the linear impulse momentum principle. So the initial linear momentum of the body plus the linear impulse applied to it is equal to the final linear momentum. So again, as you can see, this is a vector equation. So you will have to do this using the head-to-tail rule. But in the vector form, you can in the component form you can also write this equation. So for example, if you are interested to split this equation into x, y, and z component, so that to make it easier for the calculation, so what you will get m v1x. So we will just change this to the component form, and then you will have t1 to t2 and summation of all the forces in x direction into dt and equal to the mv2x. So this first equation is the impulse momentum principle in the x direction. So as you can see, the velocity is in the x direction, so mv1x, and then all the forces are sum in the x direction and equal to mv2x. So this is the final velocity in the x direction here. And similarly, you can write similar equation in the y direction. So which will be mv1y, and then t1 to t2 summation of all the forces in y direction into dt and equal to mv2y. So this is again the initial linear momentum in the y direction plus forces applied in the y direction, and you will take the integration of it with respect to time equal to the final momentum in the y direction. And similar equation can also be written in the z direction. So if you are dealing with the 3D problem, so mv2z plus t1 to t2 and summation of all the forces in z direction dt equal to mv2z here. This is the equation of impulse momentum principle in the z direction. So again, the velocity in the z direction and velocity in the z direction. This is the initial velocity, and this is the final velocity, and this is the forces in the z direction. Now, again, as we discussed earlier, that the linear impulse momentum principle can be used to solve problems in kinetics. But as we already have two procedures to solve the problems in kinetics, one is the Newton's second law, and one is the work and energy principle. So then you may think that why we need another equation to solve the problems in kinetics. So the advantages of this is that it provides a direct means of obtaining the particle final velocity v2 after a specified time period when the particle's initial velocity v1 is known, and the forces acting on the particles are either constant or can be expressed as a function of time. So as you can see in this equation here, that if you know the initial velocity and you know the force, and then you can calculate the final velocity directly. Uh, but on the other hand, if you want to apply the Newton's second law, so what you will need to do, if v2 was to be determined using directly the Newton's second law, so if you don't want to use the uh, impulse momentum principle, you want to use the Newton's second law. So what will happen that it will be a two-step process. So in the first step, you would need to calculate A by using this equation here, which is summation of all the forces equal to ma. And then you will need to do the using this equation, A is equal to dv by dt. So you will need to integrate this equation to calculate a v2. This means that you will have to do a two-step if you don't want to use this impulse momentum principle. So the impulse momentum principle is making your life easier by just providing you with the expression where you can calculate the final velocity directly from the forces and initial velocity. So you don't need to calculate the acceleration here. Okay, so next we will discuss about the impulse momentum diagram, which is nothing but just the graphical representation of the impulse momentum principle. So we know that this is the impulse momentum principle, that G1 plus T1 to T2 summation of all the forces dt equal to G2. So this means that the initial momentum plus impulse equal to the final linear momentum of the body. So, and again, we know that this is a vector equation, which is really very important. So you cannot just add G1 with the impulse and you cannot get G2 directly. You will have to use the proper way of vector addition here, or in other words, you will need to change this into the x, y, and z component, and then you will be able to use the scalar addition and scalar subtraction procedure. But in this case, for example, it's always good idea to draw the impulse momentum diagram from this equation here. So if you consider a body here, which can be, for example, a particle, and maybe the body is moving in this direction here. So this is the velocity of the body, or initial velocity of the body. We will call it V1. So we know that the G1, which is the initial momentum, is equal to m v1, and m will be the mass of this body here. So if you multiply mass with this v1, we will get g1. So g1 is again a vector, and the direction of g1 is in the direction of the velocity. So the if velocity is in this direction, so then g1 will be in this direction here. And then in this equation, so this is g1 and then plus this impulse. So if you look at the impulse, it is just the summation of the forces, and you are integrating it from T1 to T2. So this means that this is also a vector quantity. So again, if you apply this to the same body here, so maybe it is in this direction here. So this is the impulse, which is from T1 to T2, and summation of all the forces into dt. So this is what we call is the initial. This was our initial linear momentum, and this was the linear impulse. And this was then equal to the, okay, so finally you want to calculate G2, and we know that G2 is the sum of G1 plus impulse. But again, in this case, you have to do this graphically, or you have to do this using the head to tail rule. So if you take the G1 here, so this was our G1, and then you will add this force, this impulse to it. So the impulse vector was in this direction here. So T1 to T2. This was the impulse, and then the G2 will be the sum of these two, which is by using the head to tail rule, which will be this vector here. So this is our G2, and G2 will be equal to m v2, so which is again a vector. So this is the final, is what we call is the final linear momentum. Okay, so this is the graphical representation of the impulse momentum principle, is what we call is the impulse momentum diagram here. Okay, so finally we can also talk about the conservation of linear momentum here. So you may have heard about the conservation of linear momentum. So what does it mean? So if you consider again impulse momentum principle, which is g1 plus impulse equal to g2, and assume that you have a body and with some initial momentum g1, and if the applied forces are zero, so what will happen that this term in the bracket will be the impulse will be zero because force is zero. So if you integrate zero with respect to time, so it will give you zero. So this means that if this will become g1 plus 0 equal g2, it will become g1 equal g2. So in this case, you can say that the linear momentum of the particle is set to be conserved because the initial momentum will be equal to the final momentum. And we can say that the momentum of the body is conserved. So this principle is what we call is the principle of conservation of linear momentum. So if the impulse on the body is zero, the applied force on the body is zero. There's no external force applied to the body. So then there will be no change in its momentum, and g1 will become equal to g2. Okay, so now we can discuss some application. So the first example that you see here is a pitching machine. So the pitching machine is, as you can see here, throw balls uh, with some sort of friction here. So as the wheel of the pitching machine rotate, as you can see, this wheel is going to rotate in this direction here, and this wheel will rotate in this direction here. So it will throw the ball in this direction. So as the wheel of the pitching machine rotate, they apply a frictional impulses to the ball, and thereby giving it a linear momentum in the direction of f dt and f dash dt. If you consider this ball here, the yellow color, so you can see that the top wheel is applying some force on it. And if you integrate the force for the given time, which is the ball in contact with the wheel, and you integrate this force with time, and similarly the this wheel here is again applying a force f dash on it. So if again, if you integrate this force with respect to time, so you will get the impulse of this wheel on the ball, and impulse of this wheel on the ball is this this thing here. So in this case, again, you can also calculate the w delta t. You can also calculate the impulse of the weight of the ball here, but obviously it will be small as compared to the impulse due to the frictional forces which is the wheel are acting on the ball. And similarly, the normal forces that the wheels are acting on the ball is n force here, and if you integrate this n with respect to time, so you will get the impulse of that force. Okay, and the another example here is that if you consider this crane mounted hammer, so as you can see this one, it's mainly used in the construction industry, in civil engineering. So this hammer is used to drive piles into the ground, as you can see in this case here. And then impulse momentum principle can be used to find the velocity of the piles just after the impact. You may be interested to find out the velocity of the pile after the impact with the hammer, and then you can use this impact this impulse momentum principle to calculate these velocities, which we will do in the numerical examples. Okay, so that's it for today. We will just now summarize what we did in the today lecture. So today we discuss mainly about impulse and momentum. So we introduce this new term, which is what we call is the uh, linear momentum, and we represent this by g. And this is just the multiplication of mass and velocity here. Um, Again, in this lecture, we introduce Newton's second law in a slightly different form, and we say that the resultant, which is the net force, is proportional to an object's rate of change in linear momentum, which you can write in this form: summation of all the forces equal to dg by dt. So dg, g here is the linear momentum, and then we derive this very important equation, which is the linear impulse momentum principle. which is g1 plus impulse equal to the is the final linear momentum, and impulse is just the integration of the force with respect to time. And we also then introduce this impulse momentum diagram, which is just the graphical representation of the impulse momentum principle. So which is g1, which is mv1 plus the impulse, which is the integration of the forces with respect to time, equal to the final linear momentum, which is g2, which is mv2. And finally, we introduce the conservation of linear momentum, which is if the applied forces on the body is zero, if there is no external force on the body, then the initial momentum should be equal to the final momentum, and this is what we call is the conservation of linear momentum.